Hello. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to iGaming Next. I'd like to spend the first part of this keynote to talk about iGaming past, actually. I'll be going through interesting facts about the history of gambling, as I believe it's worth understanding how it informs the present, but also how it gives insight into the future. I will then share how Pragmatic Play intends to power up new possibilities of play, particularly in live casino. There is a lot of literature and articles about how ancient the habit of gambling is. So for those who didn't have the chance to read on the internet, well, hopefully this is a useful summary. Effectively, our need to play has been in our bones since the beginning of time. It's all driven by our pursuit to be entertained. And the added excitement is mainly driven by the risk and the reward that any game of chance provides. If we look back, we can trace its transformation from bones to bricks to clicks into the gambling experience of today. Going back about 3 million years ago, during the Stone Age, some small animal bones called astragali were used in games of chance. Depending on the game that was played, these little bones were actually carved with inscriptions or shaved down or filled with lead. And these small bones are effectively the earliest precursor of the modern dice we know and we play with today. It's been given numerous twists by many civilizations, from the Greeks to the Romans, the Egyptians to the Far East. And it was used in many games variations, often with high stakes involved. The six-sided dice of today comes from these basic bones. And they are now used in many popular games, such as craps, sickball, and silo. Through time and cultural transmission, it's been given different twists to cater for new possibilities of play. I'm going to move forward now a bit in history, and we're going to go into the 1600s, when a key milestone in the gambling industry was actually the opening of the first legal gambling establishment in Italy, in Venice. Unfortunately, the pressure from the church meant that it had to close down. Then 100 years later, some casino rose, in popularity in Europe, but again, another wave of legislation and pressure meant that only one really survived at the time, which is Casino Monte Carlo in Monaco. 100 years later, we go to the US now, and what has happened is that Europeans also wanted to gamble in the US, and gambling halls, but primarily starting with riverboat casinos, were established. Then it evolved. A lot of people came to the area around Nevada, building the Hoover Dam, and then the workers on payday decided to go to a town next door, and then you know the history. Las Vegas happened. The brick-and-mortar venues transformed gambling over time. And despite many social and legal changes, the continued love for gaming endured. One of the most beloved games during this era I just went through was actually created by a French physicist and mathematician. Anyway, his name was Blaise Pascal. He actually intended to create a perpetual motion machine, and through his failure, he transformed it into the roulette of today. Roulette became a casino favorite, but others transformed it further. We were talking about Monaco before, and what happened is the single zero was added actually on the design of the wheel to please Prince Charles III of Monaco. Then in the US, they transformed it even further by adding this double zero. They also wanted to add an American eagle symbol on the wheel, which subsequently got removed. It was supposed to act as a third zero. And then it got transformed more and more to the product that we know today, and it's still very much a firm casino favorite. If we fast forward to our generation, or my generation, for those of you who are a bit younger, everything has changed with the need for connectivity and obviously the birth of the internet. Key milestones were achieved by fantastic brands, and I'm not going to talk about Netflix or Disney+. I want to talk about companies I actually worked for. And if we take the example of TomTom back in 2010, some of you may remember the launch of the Go Live 1000. And this product was fantastic when it comes to bringing live and connectivity to the world. Effectively working closely with Vodafone, we added a SIM card onto the product, which meant that every driver were able to go from A to B, avoiding traffic jam, because of the live feed that the traffic that was given to the device. It also created a sense of community by providing access to the live camera, so people could talk to each other and avoid fines. This is a great example of connectivity. And then a few years later, an Estonian company called Skype got purchased by Microsoft, and very quickly enough, they were the celebration of 300 million monthly connected users. Now, you could argue that Skype is an old platform, but yet today, in the iGaming industry, most of us are still using it when we're talking with external partners. And today, where are we, 2022? We have 5 billion people connected to the internet every day. 80% of the population owns a smartphone, and 7 hours a day I spend online, on average. Aren't these the perfect ingredients to elevate the gambling entertainment from bricks to clicks? The first gambling website appeared in the mid-90s with primarily a free simulation of the real thing. And then quickly changed, and many operators, some of you being in the room, managed to provide plenty of ways to wager for real, but primarily on slot and RNG table games. Little to no live casino was available at the time. So we're now in a new age of play, and yet there are still many opportunities to elevate the gambling experience to cater for changing technology and player behavior. With a global online gambling and betting industry worth 60 billion by the end of last year, we all have a clear common goal in this room, which is to perpetually satisfy our end user. Online gambling is meant to transform the experience and to offer more than brick and mortar. And some verticals are doing exactly that. Bingo online is fantastic, total different experience than from my grandmother was playing. It has changed. Poker is unrecognizable. Slot online offers a rich variety of choice. Players can switch from one game to another as they want to find the exact game that they like. And we know what that means. It means that by increasing game trials, we're pushing more variety and we're generating higher player value. But the quick question is, when it comes to live casino, the online live casino product started very much by taking previously the thrill from traditional casinos. Only a limited number of game developers actually were willing to grab the chance to perform in this vertical. And the reasons are very clear. It's a very challenging job to open a live casino. The bar to entry is a lot higher than in slot, as it requires a high capital investment. Then from a logistical point of view, the operational expertise, the large-scale people management, and many other considerations are required to ensure that the experience delivered is of quality. And that's why in the early days, many games were just carbon copies of what was available in brick and mortar, the only novelty being that you could play them online. At Pragmatic Play, we've seen from the past that there are many ways to twist, transform, and elevate the gambling experience. With a predicted market size of 150 billion by 2030, there are plenty of opportunities to power up new possibilities of play. We aim to create a new generation of player favorites. We want to foster healthy competition and deliver operators and the players more diversity and choice to casino lobbies. I'm going to show you a video now, which is a flavor of how we're doing this at Pragmatic Play and a taste of what there is to come. Thank you all. Please join us this evening on the roof terrace of the iGaming Next networking event, where our delightful team of account managers and salespeople will be available to answer any questions you may have about our products and how we intend to power up new possibilities of play. Thank you.